with the immense pull of the transformation. It was as though the moon itself was reaching out, calling to her, pulling her towards a destiny she could neither deny nor escape. Chike stood behind her, his breath a low, almost imperceptible growl, as though he too could feel the weight of the change pressing down on them. He could sense her hesitation, her fear, and yet there was a calmness in him, an acceptance that unnerved Ngozi.
"Don't fight it, Ngozi,"
Chike said, his voice thick with an unearthly timbre.
"We were always meant for this. You were always meant to be with me. The moon has chosen us."
Ngozi's body. I never knew that my husband is a wolf until after the wedding, part 2. Ngozi's world had become a blur of sensations. Her body, now partially transformed, felt alien to her, as if it no longer belonged to her. Her bones ached with a strange, pulsing energy, and her senses were on fire. She could hear the distant rustling of leaves outside, the rhythmic thumping of her own heart, and the faintest creaks of the house settling. It was overwhelming, but it was also exhilarating. As her mind fought to maintain control, Chike, her husband, watched her with an unsettling calm, his wolfish grin never leaving his face. He seemed to savor every moment of her struggle, as if it was all part of some twisted game.
"Do you feel it, Ngozi?"
Chike asked, his voice a deep, resonant growl.
"The power coursing through you, the strength, the connection to the earth beneath you, the air above you. You are becoming one with it."
Ngozi's breath came in ragged gasps as she clenched her fist, trying to steady herself. The transformation was not just physical, it was something deeper, something primal. She could feel her mind and spirit shifting, as if she was being drawn into an ancient force she could neither control nor command.
You are not my husband anymore,"
Ngozi screamed, her voice with fear and anger.
"You're a monster."
Chike's expression darkened, but there was a hint of amusement in his eyes.
"You are not wrong, Ngozi.
He said softly.
I am still the man you married. But now, you see the truth. Now you understand that there is more to me than what you thought."
As the transformation took full hold, Ngozi's hands began to tremble, her nails now sharp claws that glinted in the dim light. Her vision sharpened even further, and she could see the subtle movements of the dust particles in the air. Her hearing heightened, and she could hear Chike's breath, the subtle swish of his tail as it flicked behind him, and the faint, distant howl of another wolf somewhere beyond the walls. The more she resisted, the more the change seemed to consume her. Her body was betraying her, and deep within, she felt a growing sense of helplessness.
You are becoming beautiful,
Chike murmured, his voice almost tender.
Stronger than you ever were. Together, we will be unstoppable.
Ngozi's eyes widened in horror.
What do you mean, together? What are you planning?
Chike's grin grew wider, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of something darker in his eyes.
I've been alone for too long, Ngozi. For centuries, I've walked this earth, an outcast, a creature of the night. But now that you are part of this, you are no longer just my wife. You are my mate, my partner in this new life. We will rule together.
A chill ran down her spine as the words sank in. He wasn't just talking about survival, he was talking about domination.
No, Chike.
She said through clenched teeth, her body trembling as she fought the transformation.
I'll never be part of this. I won't live in this nightmare with you.
But Chike's expression softened, as if he had expected a resistance. He stepped closer, his wolf-like eyes filled with something she couldn't name. Was it regret, sympathy, or perhaps a kind of possessive love?
You don't have to fight it, Ngozi.
He said gently.
The moon is calling to us both. You'll come to understand. You'll come to embrace what we are.
Ngozi's chest heaved with panic. Her mind screamed for release, for normalcy, for the life she had once known. But the more she fought, the more her instincts, sharp, wild, untamed, came to the surface. Chike reached out and cupped her face, his touch surprisingly gentle.
You are mine now, Ngozi.
The night was growing darker, and the moon loomed high above, its silver light streaming through the window, casting airy shadows across the room. Ngozi stood frozen, her body trembling with the immense pull of the transformation. It was as though the moon itself was reaching out, calling to her, pulling her towards a destiny she could neither deny nor escape. Chike stood behind her, his breath a low, almost imperceptible growl, as though he too could feel the weight of the change pressing down on them. He could sense her hesitation, her fear, and yet there was a calmness in him, an acceptance that unnerved Ngozi.
Don't fight it, Ngozi.
Chike said, his voice thick with an unearthly timbre.
We were always meant for this. You were always meant to be with me. The moon has chosen us.
Ngozi's body felt like it was torn between two walls. One part of her wanted to cling to the woman she had been, the one who had walked into this house with dreams of love and happiness. But another part, a primal part, was awakening inside her, urging her to embrace the power coursing through her veins, urging her to join Chike in the darkness.
Why didn't you tell me?
She gasped, her voice breaking with a mix of pain and disbelief.
Why didn't you warn me that this was what you really were?
Chike sighed, a deep rumbling sound that seemed to vibrate through her very bones.
Because you would have never understood.
He answered, his words soft, almost sorrowful.
I have waited for you, Ngozi. Waited for the right moment to show you the truth. I had to let you come to me on your own terms.
Ngozi's heart was racing, and she could feel the tension in her body rising as the moon's light intensified. Her transformation was near complete now, and with each passing moment, her connection to Chike grew stronger. She could feel him in her mind, his thoughts mixing with hers. And in those shared thoughts, she felt something she hadn't expected. Love. Deep, dark, and consuming love. But love nonetheless. Tears welled up in her eyes as the overwhelming emotions hit her.
This isn't love. This is madness.
But Chike's face softened, and he gently cupped her chin, lifting her head so that their gazes met. His eyes, now fully wolf-like, gleamed with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine.
It's not madness,
he said softly.
It's the truth. It's who we are, who I am, and soon you will see it too.
Ngozi could feel her own emotions begin to slip away as the transformation overtook her. She could sense her human side weakening, the animal instinct taking control. Her breath became shallow, her senses sharpening beyond measure. Her vision became sharper than ever before, and she could see the fine details of the room, the swelling patterns of dust in the air, the slight shimmer of the moonlight as it danced across the floor. Her hearing was heightened too. She could hear the beating of Chike's heart, steady and strong. The hunger inside her, something she didn't understand, but something deep and ancient, began to rise. She felt it surge within her like an insatiable fire, a longing for something she didn't know how to name. Chike's hand found hers, his grip firm but gentle. He pulled her closer, and she didn't resist. The need to be near him, to be part of him, was too strong.
Come with me.
He whispered, his voice like a promise.
Let the wolf inside you be free.
The world around her began to blur, and before she knew it, she found herself outside, beneath the full moon. Chike stood beside her, a powerful figure in the night. His transformation now complete, his body had fully shifted into that of a magnificent wolf, sleek, powerful, and commanding. Ngozi's own transformation was almost done. She could feel her bones shifting, her muscles rippling with raw strength, her senses becoming more acute. The change was agonizing, but also thrilling. She could feel it, the wildness, the freedom, the animal within her, desperate to escape. Chike turned to her, his eyes glowing with pride.
You are one of us now.
If you have enjoyed the story so far, remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel. This goes a long way in helping us bring you more beautiful stories like this one. Thank you. Ngozi stood, her breath heavy and labored, her body quivering with the remnants of the transformation. The moon above them bathed the world in a surreal light, and she could feel the pulse of its energy deep inside her. Her hands, now clawed paws, scratched at the earth beneath her. The change was complete. She was no longer the woman she had been. She was something else, something wild. Her skin had taken on a fur-like texture, sleek and black, and her senses, heightened beyond what she ever thought possible, made the world feel overwhelmingly vivid. The air smelled richer, the earth beneath her feet felt different, and even the soft rustling of the leaves in the trees seemed amplified in her ears. Chike stood next to her, watching her with approval in his wolf-like eyes. His massive form, covered in a coat of dark fur, exuded power. His ears flicked as he looked at her, his tail swishing behind him.
You did well, Ngozi,
he said, his voice deep and resonant. It was no longer a human voice, but one that was guttural and primal, vibrating with a strength that seemed to echo from the earth itself.
You are more powerful than you know.
Ngozi could barely respond. She was overwhelmed by the onslaught of sensations. The hunger she had felt inside her grew stronger, now unbearable. The call to hunt, to run wild, was all she could think about. Her mind screamed for release from the prison of her human self. She wanted to feel the wind in her fur, to run with the pack, to let go of all the restraints that had held her back for so long. But as the hunger roared within her, another thought crashed into her mind. A memory, a fragment of her past life, one that felt like a distant dream. She had loved Chike, she had trusted him, and now she stood beside him, transformed into something she didn't fully understand. The shock of it all left her with a gnawing emptiness, a feeling of betrayal that she couldn't shake.
What happened to me, Chike?
She asked, her voice now a growl, deep foreign. Her human consciousness struggled to fight back, but the wolf within was strong. He turned to her, his eyes softening for a moment.
You were always destined for this, Ngozi.
He replied,
This is who you were meant to be. We are chosen. The moon guides us.
but the pain in her chest, the doubts, refused to be silenced.
I never asked for this.
She growled.
I never wanted this.
Chike's eyes narrowed, his posture stiffening.
You don't understand yet, but you will. In time, the beast inside you will feel as natural as breathing.
She wanted to turn away, to leave, but something deep inside her was pulling her toward him. A part of her knew that Chike's influence on her wasn't just physical. There was something more, something dark and magnetic, that had always bound her to him, even before she had truly understood it. As the wind howled through the trees, Ngozi could feel the animal instinct rise again, louder now. She could no longer deny it. The woman she had been was slipping away, replaced by something more powerful, more feral, and yet within her, a whisper of her old self. A flicker of the person she had been before Chike's transformation had chained her forever, began to resurface.
Why do we have to do this?
She demanded, her voice trembling with confusion and anger.
Why do we have to follow the moon's call? Why can't we be free of this course?
Chike stepped closer, his presence looming, comforting and terrifying all at once. He nuzzled her gently with his snout, his hot breath mingling with hers.
Because, Ngozi,
He said softly,
this is who we are. The moon doesn't curse us. It frees us.
but deep in her heart, Ngozi couldn't accept it. This freedom, this raw power, felt more like a cage than a release. As her senses sharpened, so did her pain. She wanted to be human again. She wanted to feel safe, loved, and whole. But she couldn't escape, not yet. The moon was still calling, and she could feel the urge to run, to hunt, and to let the beast inside her take over completely. And the worst part, the pull was strong, almost irresistible. But Ngozi was not ready to lose herself. Not yet. Ngozi stood at the edge of the clearing, her eyes locked on the distant horizon. The transformation was complete. The hunger, the instinct, everything was part of her now. She had embraced the beast inside her, but her humanity still fought to remain intact. The pull of the moon, of Chike, of the pack, was all-consuming. Yet, deep within her, there was a small voice, her voice that refused to let go. Chike stood beside her, his massive frame looming, his fur rippling in the breeze, his eyes glowing with a predatory intensity. The pack was with them, scattered across the clearing like shadows, their eyes gleaming with the same hunger.
Are you ready?
Chike asked, his voice soft yet commanding, like a whisper from the depths of hell. His tone was full of expectation, a leader waiting for his chosen to take the final step. Ngozi didn't respond immediately. She looked back at the village in the distance, the place she had once called home, the life she had once lived, before the wedding, before Chike, before the moon's curse, seemed like a distant memory. The people she loved, the life she dreamed of, now felt as though it belonged to another person.
I can't do this.
She whispered, her voice barely audible.
I can't become like you, like them.
Chike's gaze softened, but there was an undeniable edge to his voice.
It's not a choice, Ngozi. This is your destiny. You can't escape it.
Her heart ached. There was a part of her that loved Chike, that still believed in the connection they once shared. but that part was fading, slipping away into the darkness of her new existence. She had become something else, something that no longer fits into the world she had known.
I never wanted this,
she said firmly, her claws scraping the earth beneath her teeth bared.
I never asked for any of this.
Chike's eyes hardened, his wolfish face now full of determination.
No one asked for this, Ngozi, but this is what we are. This is our power, our truth.
Suddenly, a loud cry echoed from the village, breaking the tension between them. A familiar voice, one she had not heard in what seemed like forever. Her sister, Amina. Her voice rang out in distress as though she was calling for help. Without thinking, Ngozi's feet moved, her body following instincts rather than reason. Her heart beat faster as she raced towards the village, her new form moving with an agility she had never known. The pack followed her, a chorus of howls rising behind her. As she neared the village, she saw it. The people she had once loved were gathered in a circle, surrounded by an ancient fire. Amina was at the center, her face pale with fear, but her eyes locked on Ngozi with an expression that sent chills down her spine. "You have to stop this, Ngozi," Amina cried, her voice trembling as she held up an ancient relic, an amulet that glowed faintly in the dark. Ngozi skidded to an halt, her fall rippling with tension. The pack behind her snarled, but Chike stood still, watching intently. There was something in Amina's eyes that made Ngozi hesitate, a flicker of the love and loyalty she had once felt for her family. "Stop it, Ngozi," Amina repeated, desperation in her voice. "This isn't you. You are not a monster. This curse, it can be broken. Please, don't let Chike and his pack control you." Chike growled low, a rumble of warning in his throat. But Ngozi, her heart torn between her new nature and her old love, stepped forward.
Amina, how do you know about this?
Ngozi asked, her voice trembling. The pull of the pack, the hunger, the moon's influence, all of it was pushing against her, but Amina's words held her steady. "The amulet," Amina said, her voice shaking. "It's a relic of our ancestors, a symbol of protection. It has the power to break the curse, to undo everything." Ngozi's mind raced. Could it be true? Could there really be a way to free herself from the pull of the moon, from the pack, from Chike? Chike snarled again, but Ngozi didn't look at him. Her eyes locked onto Amina's, and for the first time since the transformation, she saw a glimmer of hope in her sister's eyes. "This is your last chance, Ngozi," Amina said, her voice full of emotion. "You can still choose. You can still be free." Ngozi's body shook with the strain of the decision. The hunger inside her was almost too much to bear. The pack growled, waiting for their leader's command. But Ngozi stood still, torn between the relic's promise and the pull of the moon.
"I don't want to be this,"
she whispered, her voice trembling, raw with pain. Amina stepped closer, desperation in her eyes. "Ngozi, please, you don't have to live like this. Take it and we can go back to who we were before." Ngozi's gaze lingered on the amulet, its glow bright after the dark. Her claws flexed and she let out a low groan. Memories flooded her mind, her family, her life before Chike, and the woman she used to be. But alongside them came the rush of the hunt, the thrill of strength, the clarity of senses sharper than any human could ever dream. The curse wasn't just pain, it was power. Her voice came, low but firm. "No, Amina, I can't go back." Amina froze, her hands trembling as the amulet dimmed. "Ngozi, what are you saying?"
"I'm saying this isn't a curse,"
Ngozi said, her tone deep and steady now, resonating with the wolf's growl beneath.
"It's a gift. I was too scared to see it before, But now I understand. I can be more than what I was, more than what anyone thought I could be.
Chike stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with pride.
You see now, Ngozi, this is who you are meant to be.
Ngozi turned to him, her expression unreadable.
No, Chike, this isn't about you. It never was.
The growl in her voice silenced the pack. Even Chike tilted his head, watching her carefully. Ngozi's gaze returned to Amina, softening as she spoke.
I'll always love you, sister. But this is my path now, and I'll use it to protect you and everyone else.
The pack stared, uneasy, as Ngozi stepped toward them. She let out a low, commanding howl, and they froze. One by one, they lowered their heads, recognizing her authority. Chike's voice was tight.
You think you can lead them without me?
Ngozi's eyes burned with determination.
Watch me.
The night stretched long as Ngozi took her place among the pack, her voice ringing out with a howl that shook the trees. She didn't just feel the pull of the moon now, she embraced it. The wolf was no longer her enemy, but an extension of her will. The villagers soon spoke of a protector who roamed the forest in the dead of night. When danger threatened, a dark figure would appear, swift, fierce, and unyielding. Ngozi became a legend, the huntress of the moon, a guardian who shielded her people from harm, human or supernatural. And yet, under every full moon, she still heard Chike's howl in the distance, a reminder of the choice she had made and the power she had claimed as her own. The howls that she heard on the nights with a full moon reminded her of the family curse that she had somehow escaped. But every now and then, she would feel the pull of the moon, the urge to transform into something more.